Good evening, everyone. This is Robert Jamieson. Welcome to our online chess lesson for Thursday, the 19th of June. Firstly, apologies for last week. I don't know what's wrong with my computer, but every time I tried to listen to you guys speak, I got terrible static echoes. And it looks like I have similar problems this week. So we might have to improvise and get you guys to type in your comments in the questions rather than me talking to you directly, which is a big pity because that's half the fun. But I'll do some investigation and maybe next week see if I can have a different internet connection or something that won't have that problem. All right, anyway, we have a little puzzle for you today to start off with. Black to play. This was a game from one of my students, Gary Lynn, who's quite a good player that he played against Chan the other day, I think in the Vic Open. Now, let's have a look. So firstly, we look at the material and Gary's 2 pawns down. But White's king seems to be in a bit of a pickle, sitting there on b3, roaming around the place, and Black has a queen, a rook, a bishop and a knight that are all pretty much participating in the attack. So you'd think if he finds the right sequence of moves, Gary should be able to win the game. Now let's have a quick look. Firstly, what is White threatening? Probably not too much. He could, if he wanted, move that knight on h6 and go knight f7 check. We go g8, go back to h6 check and waste a few moves, something like that perhaps. That's not overly scary. Okay, so can we find a way for Black to win the game? Now, some of you guys have had a try. We've had a look at knight d3 from Maha, bishop c2 from Selwyn. Oliver's was trying queen c3, but that doesn't seem to be terribly good, or rook c3 even. Queen g6, some of you are trying. And Cadence is now suggesting maybe knight e4. Okay. Let's, now that we're all here, let's all have a go, see if we can get the first move right. So the general principles of attacking, we want to corner the king, to move our pieces over towards the king and hopefully get a checkmate. So what does everyone think is Black's first move? The first move is not too hard. What move do you reckon Black should play, focusing on trying to get a checkmate against the white king? So type in on the question box, what do you reckon the most likely first move is? So I think Oliver's going rook f8, Callum's going queen d4, Maha bishop c2, Waifu bishop c2, Liam bishop c2. Okay. Right, let's have a look, see what we've got. First move, bishop c2 check, and Caden's got it as well. So well done to those 4. Bishop c2 check, so that's driving the king into the corner. Now, of course, we can't go king b4 because then queen takes b2 check, or queen d4 check is mate in 2. So White's next move is sort of forced. King a3. Now, Black has to be a little bit careful because if it's White's go, he has a discovered check with his knight. So Black has to bear that in mind. Okay, so question is, what can Black do for his next move? This is the key move. Can Black get a checkmate with the next move? So let's have a look. Oliver's going rook c3. Dinell's going rook c3. Cadence going rook c3. Everyone's thinking hard, I hope. Liam, Callum, Waifu, just about everyone's gone rook c3, even Maha. Okay, well, let's have a look. So rook c3 looks like a pretty obvious move because it's getting the rook in the attack. But you guys have fallen for the same thing that Gary fell for. I think you're assuming that white's reply is going to be pawn takes rook, and then queen c3 mate. Or if king b4, queen d4 is going to be mate in a couple. But white has a different move. And in fact, he plays b3. So it's very important with these tactics and in all your moves, really, that you ask yourself, what is your opponent going to reply? And Gary thought this was okay because he now played rook takes b3 check, pawn takes rook, and then Gary zoomed in queen a1 check, king b4, and it looks like white's king is still in a heap of trouble, but poor old Gary couldn't find any way to corner it, and the white king escaped, and Gary ended up losing the game, which was a very poor result. We go back one more move. So the move no one looked at and no one suggested is the brilliant move, queen takes b2 check. Now you'll remember that I say when you think tactics are on, look at all checks and captures. So even if we thought rook c3 check was good, we should have a quick look at this, because king takes queen is the obvious move. We then go knight d3 check. King has to go a3, and Gary has the lovely rook c3 mate. Oh, what a pity. And he missed it, just like we all missed it. So I guess it was pretty tough, particularly if you're in time trouble. It's a nifty little puzzle, and a good lesson to look at all checks and captures, no matter how silly they look. Like giving up your queen for a pawn looks like a pretty silly thing, but in this case, it worked out well. Okay, now let's move on to the game. Right, so now today's lesson, I was watching the game, I think it was last Friday night, from the Box Hill Chess Club Championship between Chris Wallace. Now, he's a really strong player. He's about 2,300 plus. He may well win the Victorian Championship on at the moment. And he's playing a junior named Marco, I think I've misspelled it, should be with K, Grabovac, who's about 1850. So he's also a pretty strong player, but in this game, he put in an absolute shocker. It was terrible. So today's lesson is about how not to play chess. Most of the time I tell you guys what to do, so today we're going to have a little bit of focus on what not to do. Now, by way of introduction, let me explain that at the start of the game, we all know in general what we're trying to achieve. So like we're trying to get our pawns out to control the centre. We're trying to develop our pieces. We're trying to make our king safe by castling. Those are the three general things we're trying to do. But in addition to them, we have a few sort of sayings or rules or guidelines to help you guys choose the correct move. And these guidelines might be correct 90% of the time, but not necessarily 100% of the time. So, for instance, if I had a knight on g6 and you were going to take it, what would be the rule? Whether you take with the f pawn or the h pawn. So type in the question box, what do you think the rule would be for black to help him choose which way to capture that knight? Callum said take with the h pawn. Everyone's saying take with h, but I want to know why. What's the rule? Why do we choose the h pawn? Always take anyone? Maybe you know which pawn to take with, but not the rule. Yes, Liam got it. Always take closer to the centre, towards the centre. So the rule in general is that we take towards the centre. So taking with the h pawn, the pawn's going closer towards the centre. If we took with the f pawn, the pawn will be going away from the centre. Okay, cool. Right, so that's an example of a little general sort of rule that we're going to talk about. Let's see how it's applied in this game. So let's get started. So white's off and running. He plays e4. Black plays knight f6. Now, I think Marco is very big into opening theory. He studies lots of lines and variations and knows them all back to front and upside down, and he really loves his opening theory. So Chris did a slightly strange move here, and his plan was probably to get Marco out of the main book lines, and hopefully he wouldn't know uh, what he should be necessarily doing in this different position, because he played bishop g5. Normally we would have done c4 or knight f3 or something like that, and we have a rule saying knights before bishops, so Chris has disobeyed that rule, but his reason is to get Marco out of his book knowledge, I'm thinking. All right, now over to you guys. Let's pretend we're Marco. What should black play in reply to bishop g5? What do you reckon would be a good move for black here? So type in the question box what move you'd do for black. Oliver's suggesting d5. Selwyn's going h6. Tom's going h6. Maha's going knight c6. Nathan h6. Cadence knight c6. Okay, so we've got 3 different moves to choose from so far. All right, well, everyone who said h6, no. It's not what we're trying to do. It's not seizing the centre, not a developing move. It's not making our king safe. It's possibly forcing white to take the knight, and I think he went there to take the knight anyway. So it's him to do what he wants to do. So h6 has been pretty much a waste of time. Maha and Cadence want to do knight c6. Probably not the best because you're giving me free space. I just play d5, getting lovely free space. So not knight c6. Were it me, I would do d5, which was Oliver's move. Well done, Oliver. So that's controlling a bit of the centre. And if white wants to take my knight, I just take him back. I've got double pawns, but it's no big deal. I can get my pieces out easily. And particularly seeing I'm a low-ranked player who's happy with a draw, that would be fine for me. So I would do that were it me. But Marco did a different move. He went knight e4. Okay, so question for you guys. Has he broken any rules with knight e4? And what rule, if he has he broken? Type in the question box what rule do you think it is that he's broken. I'm not after a move, Sam. I'm after a reason why knight e4 in general doesn't fit in with our rules and ideas. Callum's got the right answer. Liam's got the right answer. Maha. Yeah, most of you should know this. The general rule is don't move a piece twice in the opening unless you really have to. In this case, it's not so bad because he's attacking white's bishop, and maybe white has to move the bishop if he wants to keep it. And in fact, he did. So knight d4, moving it twice isn't quite so bad, but I'm not sure the knight can stay on e4, whether that's a good spot or waste of time. The important thing is that you guys know the rule, understand it, and then the next phase is you understand when you can break the rule. All right, let's see what black does now. He goes d5, so that's okay. He's grabbing his share of the centre like we did before. So we just go pawn to e3 to let our bishop out and protect everything. Black goes c5. So he's getting his 2 pawns side by side. Now it's not a developing move. We'll see. White goes bishop d3. So he's developed his second piece. All right, let's say you guys are black now. I think Marco made a bad move here, perhaps. What move would you make for black in this position? Black to play. Nathan wants to go c4. Oliver wants to go b6. Sam knight c6, waifu e6, c4 for Selwyn, bishop f5 from Maha. No one's come up with Marco's move yet. Callum e6. Queen a5 check from Dinal. Not sure what that does. e5 from Oliver, just loses a pawn. All right, we've got lots of different moves. I don't know. What should I do here? Not sure about c4 because that's not developing a piece. He can just take my knight and play knight e2 with a double attack my pawns, maybe. b6 possible, knight c6 possible, e6 maybe. I'll show you the move he played anyway. So he played, my computer's awake, he played queen b6. His idea is obviously that white's bishop has moved out to f4, so now the b2 pawn is undefended, so he wants to get an attack on the b2 pawn with his queen. But maybe he's broken a little rule. So what would be the rule that he may have broken by playing queen b6? So type in on the question box what you reckon that rule is that he might have broken. Queen b6, what's wrong with that in general? Liam's got the right answer. Maha's got the right answer. Oliver's right. Caden's right. Yeah, I think most of you understand this. So the general rule is we don't bring out our queen early in the game because it's the most powerful piece, and there's so many pieces on the board, it just gets attacked by little pieces and chased around, or we might even end up losing it, in general. So whether in this position it's okay, we'll have to wait and see, but in general, he's being a bit naughty with queen b6. Okay, now let's see what happens. So white says, all right, I'm just going to take your knight, and black takes back with the pawn. All right, now let's see if we can get white's next move. Black is threatening queen takes b2, I'm thinking. So you guys pretend you're white. What move would you play if you were white in this position? Type in the move in the question box. White to play. Sam likes knight c3. Maha likes b3. Selwyn, I think, is saying knight c3. Callum, knight c3. Oliver wants d5. So that's 3 different moves so far. Anyone else got any ideas? Liam wants knight e2. Caden's knight c. All right, most of you are going knight c3. Oliver d5, gaining space, but it's not a developing move, and he's probably just going to take our pawn on b2, win a pawn for nothing. So most of you got the right answer. The right move is knight c3. So focusing on the big picture, we're trying to get our pieces out, so that develops a piece to its best square. And our knight is now attacking his e4 pawn. So for instance, if he wants to take on b2, that's only a side pawn, and I can take on e4, and I've got a nice knight in the middle of the board. I'm not too worried about the loss of the b2 pawn. I think that'll be okay for white. So knight c3, probably a good move. Okay, now black decides to first take on d4. White takes back with the queen. All right. Now, put on your thinking caps. We'll be black again. What should black play here? White's got a double attack on our e4 pawn. He's maybe threatening queen takes queen to double our pawns, but he's left his b2 pawn on free. So what move do you reckon black should do here? Black to play. Type in on the question box your preferred move. Maha likes bishop f5, so that's protecting the pawn once and developing a piece. Cadence wants to take on b2. Waifu wants to take on d4. Sam wants to move his queen over to g6, attacking the g2 pawn. So everyone's coming out with a different move. Oliver wants knight d7. Liam wants knight c6. Gosh, everyone has come up with a totally different move. All right. Probably the best move is Liam's move. Well done, Liam. My computer says it wants to play knight c6. And I think it's thinking, well, black's probably going to lose the pawn anyway, and he's horribly behind in development, so he's really got to get some pieces out. So knight c6 more or less forces white to trade queens, which gives black a double pawn, though that's not the end of the world because the rook's now activated a bit. White has a good-looking move in knight d5, threatening to jump into c7. But black could probably maybe play rook a5 or something. So even though he's got a pretty lousy game, he's got some of his pieces out, and he's starting to do a little bit. So knight c6 may not be too bad, but Marco went for queen takes queen instead. Pawn takes queen. All right, now let's have a look at it. How are they both going? So according to our general principles, white has two pieces developed now. His knight out, the bishop out, and black's got none. So in terms of time, white's well ahead. In terms of king safety, it's going to take white one go to castle queenside to make his king safe. So he's pretty close, and black's nowhere near castling yet. And even worse for black, his poor old pawn on e4 is attacked, and it's a bit of a pain to defend it. So far black has really made a bit of a botch of it, but see what he can do. Black to play, your pawn on e4 is attacked. What move do you reckon black should do here? Type it on the question box. What would be black's move from your point of view? So waifu likes bishop f5. If you want to defend that pawn, you've either got bishop f5 or f5 are your only two choices. Liam likes bishop f5, Selwyn bishop f5, Cadence bishop f5. Looks like we're all agreeing. Timmy, everyone going bishop f5. All right. Bishop f5 is okay because it develops a piece. If my bishop will move out there. The only drawback is white could then play knight e2. So his secret plan is he's going to play knight g3. So that'll hit the bishop and have a double attack on the e-pawn. So black's probably still struggling to hold that pawn. But at least he's got one piece out. So it's not the end of the world. In fact, Marco didn't do bishop f5. He said, all right, I don't want to lose a pawn. To play f5. Again, not a developing move. So he's got a little bit of control of the centre with all his pawns, but he hasn't got any pieces developed at all. Now, the next move is a key move, I think, maybe the key move of the game. So white to play, what move would you do for white? I've shown this position to two of my classes so far, and I think there's only one person in each class who's picked the right move. So this must be a fairly hard move to find. So have a big think and type in what you would do for white here. So Dinar's going knight d5, Selwyn's going castles, Maha's going knight d5, Nathan's going pawn to d5. No, he's changed his mind now. He's now going knight to d5. Liam's going castles. Aidan's knight d5. Timmy knight d5. Waifu knight b5. Oliver's going pawn to d5. All right. So we've got a selection of moves there. Now, the first thing to bear in mind, so a lot of you want to play knight d5 with the obvious idea of forking on c7. Right, two things you have to bear in mind. One, you're being naughty like Marco was at the start of the game. You're moving a piece twice in the opening before you're completely developed. So you better have a really good reason for doing it. And a bit like the puzzle with Gary at the start where you played rook c3 check, have we said, has black got a good reply? Because I think if you play knight d5, black's going to just put his knight on a6 to cover the threat. And maybe next move he's going to play pawn to e6 and then chase our knight away. So we need to think deeper than the one move threat. Those of you who want to go castle, so that's Callum and Liam. That's a good move, fits in with our general principles, makes our king safe. But perhaps misses a little bit of an opportunity. So whilst we're coasting along doing our general principles, we need to keep an eye out for an opportunity that might even involve us breaking some of the rules. Oh, hang on, wait a minute. Someone has found the right move. Golly gosh, he's changed his mind. Well done to Oliver. Oliver's come up with the correct move. Pawn to c3. Pawn to f3. Now, this is not a developing move, but it will be in a second because white is now threatening pawn takes pawn on e4, winning a pawn. And black can't protect that pawn, so what on earth can he do? The only really way he can get out of it is to play pawn takes our pawn, and then we recapture with a developing move. Fantastic. So this is one of the things, one of the little mistakes that Marco's made. He's got a situation whereby he's allowed his opponent to recapture with developing move. Now, I know I've mentioned this in some of our lessons before, particularly with pins. So if you do a pin, say bishop g4 or something, pinning a knight on f3, and I can just play h3 attacking your bishop, and if you have to take me on f3, and I recapture, say, with my queen, you've given me two free moves. I've recaptured with a developing move. So if you're forced into that situation, that's really bad. And have a look what's happened now. White actually has three pieces developed to 0. He has two knights, a bishop, to absolutely nothing. We've made 11 moves, and black has no pieces developed, and white can now choose. He can either castle king side to make his king safe, or queen side to make his king safe. So white is going absolutely great guns. Well done, Oliver. Okay, now, so poor old Marco, what's he going to do? I think he's a bit worried about knight b5. So his next move is bishop d7 to cover that d5 square. All right, let's have another go. So we're going great. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to win the game, but it means we're off to a good start. White's move, what should we do here? White to play, what move would you guys do? Type in the question box when you've decided. Dinelle wants knight d5. Maha wants knight e5. Selwyn wants castles queenside. Callum castles queenside. Liam knight e5. Nathan knight d5. Cadence knight e5. Timmy's going castle queenside. Oliver's castling kingside. Sam's castling queenside. And Waifu is doing knight e5. Okay, well, we've got a collection of moves there. Let's start off. Knight d5, which I think was Nathan's move. Again, it's a one-move threat, but I think we just play knight a6, and then I'm going to chase your knight away. So I'm not sure that's helped us much, and you've broken our rule. Some of you want to play knight e5. That's a bit better. Maybe he just does knight c6 or even e6 or something. I'm not sure we're doing too much with knight e5. Most of you wanted to castle. The question is which side? And in fact, white did castle, and he chose queen side. I think I'd choose queen side in this position too, because that means my rook is sort of in the game already on the d file. So I've made my king safe. So I've got now 4 pieces developed, made my king safe, and poor old Marco's only got 1. All right. Black's next move. He goes knight a6, with the idea probably of covering that c7 square in case we want to get a fork on c7. But has he broken another rule? What rule do you think knight a6 might have broken? So type in on the question box, and I'll see if you guys understand. What rule has black broken? Dinelle says knight's on the last line. No, not quite, no. Liam's got the right answer. Well done, Liam. What rule has black broken by putting his knight on a6? Nathan says king safety. Nope. Waifu's got the right answer. Maha's got the right answer. Oliver, yep. Sam, yeah. Most of you understand. So the general thing is we are trying to put our pieces on good squares. So knights in particular don't like to be on the side of the board. So with our knight on a6, it can go to 1, 2, it can go to 4 squares only. Sort of a bit out of the play. If you put the knight in the middle of the board somewhere, like c6, if that were possible, and not refuted tactically, it can go to 8 squares. So maybe it's good in this position because the knight's got to go out somewhere, but in general, we don't want our knight on the side of the board. So if black's ended up with a position where he's had to play knight a6, he must have done something wrong. Okay, so that's good. So we're up to about 3 or 4 rules that Marco's broken so far. White to play. See if you can get white's next move. What move should white do here? He's got probably a couple of reasonable moves. So Callum's going rook e1. Timmy likes rook e1. Selwyn likes rook e1. Maha, Waifu. So far, everyone's agreeing. Oh, Waifu's gone rook a1. You mean rook he1, Waifu? Anyone else have a thought or a different move? Cadence is agreeing. Rook e1. Liam wants knight d5. Oliver wants knight g5. All right. So let's have a chat. So in general, if you were just applying general principles, rook h to e1, that's the obvious move. Because one of the things I say to you guys, if you don't know what to do, find your worst placed piece and somehow get it into the game. So in this game, the only piece that's not working for white is this h rook. So rook h to e1, putting it on a half-open file, that looks obvious. So all things being equal, that would be the move we would make. We'd then have all our pieces ready to go, and we'd probably think of something to attack next move. But the next stage we have to be aware of is to keep an eye out for opportunities that might present themselves to play a better move than just the general principles move like rook e1. And in this case, white does have an opportunity. See, the thing about rook, where are we? Rook e1. Whether black can make his king safe by castling, I'm thinking. It's not super safe because it's a bit airy, but he's got his king out of the way of those rooks, and if you give him a couple of moves, he might catch up in development and not be too badly off. So, if we're thinking about what's the other guy going to do, he's going to cast to get his king out. We have a move that can stop that. And that move, I'll show you now, it's a good move, is knight e5. So he's moving a piece twice, but he has a very good reason, because now we can't castle, because that would allow the fork on f7, winning the exchange. And now we have our knight really in the middle of the board, threatening all those 8 squares. So that's an annoying move for black. So whilst most of us would have gone rook e1, Chris, who's a really good player, said, hang on, I'll chuck in knight e5 first. All right, let's see what black does. He goes g6. All right, let's see what we want to do now. White to play. We're still going pretty well. What move would you guys do for white now? Maha wants to go rook e1 now. Callum wants to go d5. Sam wants to take knight takes bishop. Selwyn wants rook e1. So we've got 3 different moves to choose from. Nathan wants rook e1. Waifu rook e1. Cadence like knight takes bishop. Right, most of you go rook e1. A couple of you went knight takes bishop. All right, so let me explain. Some of the people in my earlier classes also did this. Knight takes bishop. Is this a good move? So we have to, it's an even swap. Knight's worth 3, bishop's worth 3. So we have to say which is the better piece. Now I would say our knight there on e5 is a really good piece. The bishop's on d7 is only an average piece. So we are spending time to swap our good piece for his average piece, and his king would take. So, but even though his king's in the middle of the board, it's now sort of relatively safe on that white square, and it's a bit developed, and black's only 1 move away from connecting his rooks, bishop g7. So I think knight takes bishop would be a boo-boo, really helping black, because his problem is he's not developed. So the right move, going back to our general principles, rook he1. Excellent. All right. Black now goes bishop g7. All right, so now the next problem. So we've got all our 5 pieces on pretty good squares in the centre. Our king is safe. Our pawn structure is good. So everything's great. We're raring to go. The only thing is now we have to think, what the hell are we going to do? We have to find something to attack or something to build up on or something like that. So I want you guys put your thinking cap on and tell me what weakness or let's just say square. What square? There might be something on that square, there might not. What square do you reckon is the weakness in black's camp that we should be looking to attack or build up on? So type in a square, like is it B3, is it G8, whatever. Oliver's on okay. Nathan's had another answer, yep. Timmy's disagreeing. So Timmy's saying F7. Cadence F7. Selwyn F7. Callum F7. Waifu C7. Oliver E7. Nathan E7. Liam F7. Now Nathan's, yep, still going E7 question mark. So we've got 3 different squares. C7, E7, F7. One of them is the right answer. So C7, it's sort of covered by a knight. Could we get rid of that knight and put a knight there? Not really at the moment. F7, well, it's attacked by our knight, but we have no follow-up, and if we put something there, like a knight attacking his rook, he just moves his rook. No big deal. So if we're to correctly evaluate this position, the weakness in black's camp is E7. That pawn on E7. It's only defended by the king. It's on the same file as our rook. That is what we should be thinking about. Can we somehow get in on E7? So, if we've worked that out, and that's the correct answer, we need to find a move that fits in with that plan. So what is white's next move? White to play. Oliver's got the right answer. Nathan's got the right answer. Well done, guys. Sam's got the right answer. Selwyn's knight E7. That's not legal. Dinar's got the right answer. Yep, it looks like everyone's got the right answer. All right, the correct move for white now is bishop G5. Okay, oops, she's going back too far. Bishop G5. All right, so now the bishop is attacking that E7 pawn. The rook is attacking the E7 pawn through the knight, and our threat is in fact now knight takes bishop, and if king takes, then rook takes E7 check, and we're in. So poor old Marco, he couldn't think of much of a way out of it. So the only thing he could think of was to move that bishop so the knight can't take it. So he put the bishop back to its starting spot. So now he's only got 2 pieces developed to our 5. All right, we're getting close. What can we do? White to play. Think about building up on that E7. What move should white do now? Dinar's going knight D5. Liam, knight D5. Nathan's got the right answer. Well done. Cadence, knight D5. Selwyn, knight G6. I don't know if we want to give our knight for a pawn or two, Selwyn. All right, the correct answer, which Nathan is the only one who got, is knight C4. So that discovers our rook's attack on E7. Maybe it also gives us the possibility of knight D6 check sometime if we want. And black's now in a bit of a pickle, so the only way he can really save the pawn, even if it's only temporary, is moving up to E6, where it's covered by the bishop. Right, now we've got a good move here. It's pretty obvious. Type in white's next move. We'll see if we can finish black off in the next couple of moves. White to play. Maha's got it. Sam's missed it. Liam's missed it. Oliver missed it. Dinar's missed it. Hayden's missed it. Selma missed it. I'm surprised. Maha's the only one. Timmy's got it. Well done. Oliver's got it. Dinar's got it. All right. Some of you are saying knight D6 check. If you do that, I think I'm just going king D7. And if you play knight takes bishop, then I recapture with developing move. I've got rid of my lousy bishop. I'm probably hanging in there. So the correct move is pawn to D5, because that pawn's pinned. So now we've got double attack on that pawn. and black can't really defend it if he plays king f7, for instance. Now we can go knight d6 check, and he's in a pickle. So poor old Marco said, all right, looks like I've lost that pawn. So he thought, all right, I'll bail out, head for the hills. I'm going to castle, even if it costs me a pawn. All right, so we take free pawn. So this is going great. We've still got all our pieces well placed, and now we've got an exciting pass pawn on the 6th, threatening to keep on going. So black blocks it with his rook. He plays rook e8. Okay, now we make one more move, and black resigns. What is that move? Type in the question box what move you think white can make to win the game. Oliver's going rook d8, Callum knight d6. Nathan e7, Cadence knight d6. Selwyn knight d6. Nathan rook d8. So I've got 3 moves to choose from at the moment. Only one of them's right. Waifu's going knight d5. Dinal's going e7. Okay. So those of you who wanted knight d6, my knight will move. Come on, knight. I don't think that's much chop because you're giving me the pawn. Forgot to say what's black's threatening. I think I can just take that pawn on e6 and I get rid of your really dangerous pass pawn. So the correct move, which Selwyn got, Sam got, Nathan... Oh, no, hang on, wait a minute, start again. I'm wrong. Nathan got and Dinal got is pawn to e7. Okay, so now we have 2 threats. We have the threat of rook d8, which is going to be a bit of a pain because the bishop can't come out. And also, if say you did a move like knight c7, we have the threat of knight d6, attacking the rook, which has nowhere to go. So we're at least winning the exchange with a crushing position. So poor old Marco had enough and he gave up. Right, end of game. Now, let's just quickly go back and see what we can learn from that game. Basically, it was a really horrible game by black. He had a bad day, but you can see that at the start of the game, he disobeyed some of our rules. He moved his knight twice, he moved his queen out early, he put his knight on the side of the board, he made a capture so we could recapture with a developing move, he didn't make his king safe. Basically, he did everything wrong. So I think that was a good example for you guys, just to make certain that you know those basic general rules and sayings, and you can hopefully apply them in your own games. Not necessarily all the time, but probably most of the time. But you also have to think about the next level. Remember when we did that, everyone did that rook e1, whereas Chris Wallace did knight e5. You're allowed to break the rules if there's some good opportunity going on. So you need to keep the eye out for that, not just play with the general rules, which only applies some of the time, but not all of the time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Sorry I couldn't get to talk to you because that's one of the fun parts of this lesson. I might try doing it from the chess shop next week. I think our last lesson is next Thursday, seeing if I've got a better internet connection, and hopefully I can chat to all you guys then. So, thanks for attending this week, and I look forward to catching you all next week. Good night.